This podcast sometimes uses strong language, and it may cover topics that require viewer discretion. Also, it's a podcast. It's not a primary source of information. If you'd like to follow along visually with the show, or read any of the papers we talk about yourself, you can find all of those links and more at ridiculousresearchreview.com.
Okay, Edie, do you are we going to do your thing at the end or the?
Oh, you want a scientist find?
Yeah, give it to us.
I got a scientist find for you. This one is I thought was originally clickbait when I opened it, but might be actually an interesting thing. This one comes to us from MIT News. This is scientists find neurons that process language on different timescales. And at first, that just kind of sounded like nonsense to me. I didn't think that meant anything.
That sounds made up.
Right, but when you get into it, what they've done is they've been doing brain scans, and they were able to isolate different pockets of neurons that activate with different lengths of language. Like one area would light up if it was just like a single word, but a string of like 6 words would light up a whole different area. So they started getting into different bits of the brain processing language, and you use different parts of your brain when you are trying to get like the definition of a word versus trying to understand a sentence, which I guess makes some sense.
I take umbrage with calling that different time scales. That's been jazzed up for sure.
A little bit, for sure.
A little bit, but honestly, super interesting. And
You're out here watching The Lord of the Rings, but I exist on a different time scale because I have the Fellowship Extended Edition.
Yeah,
correct.
Totally.
You see what I'm saying?
All right, welcome to the Ridiculous Research Review, where we talk about scientists and the weird things that they do to learn new things about the world. My name is James Lynch. I have a PhD in mechanical engineering. I'm an engineer. Yeah.
If you don't introduce yourself as Dr. James Lynch, PhD, what's even the point?
Yeah, you spent a lot of money for those letters.
More than I should have, definitely. Just introduce yourself, Scott.
Okay, I'm Edie Churchill. I'm here.
Great.
Fantastic.
That's fantastic. I love it.
I'm Pat Brennan. I'm a professor of technical theater, and generally I bring the expertise in goofing around to the podcast.
Messed up that you're a professor. It really
Twice
is.
Over.
Yeah.
Two universities.
Incredible.
2 universities have given me that title. All right. What are you doing?
Oh boy.
Well, you can't say "oh boy."
You can't say, oh boy, you're doing this to us.
I know. Sorry. Give me a damn second. Okay. Give me a damn second. This is not going to go in the show. Shut up.
Oh, it super duper is.
No. I'm doing the academic thing, and I'm editing my PowerPoint as I'm starting my PowerPoint presentation.
Foolish.
Okay.
What if hear me out. What if I refuse to click on the PowerPoint?
Well, you don't have to. You don't have to because I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to show it to you, and I'm going to say a couple things about this episode first. This is, not to talk it up too much, but this is the episode that inspired me to want to do a podcast like this and a couple others. And I will also say there's a content warning for if you get a little queasy around like bathroom talk and talk of fecal matter. Because what we're going to talk about today, my friends, is poop knives.
Why doesn't it?
No.
You've got little
Knives made of poop.
No. Wait, knives made of poop. Not like
Knives
the
made
classic
of
Reddit poop
poop.
knife to chop up the poop in your toilet because you take big poops. But in fact, knives made of poop.
Knives made of poop.
This is
Poop knives. Knives
is-
made of poop.
You know, as mentioned, I've really been reflecting on the value of my friendship with James the scientist in that regard, and this is one of the top 5 worst things he's ever brought me.
Just for context for our listeners, I am currently looking at a white slide with black text that simply says poop knives, knives made of poop. Content warning, lots of talk of fecal matter, handling fecal matter, etc. And has a woman in a poop emoji dancing in the top left corner and some sort of like neon poop emoji in the top right corner with neon flies around it.
I found out 10 minutes ago that Google Slides will let you put GIFs into, and they have like a GIF search bar. So of course there's got to be GIFs at least on the title slide.
Do you think?
Like, come on.
Do you think that's going to improve my experience today?
I doubt it.
I'm currently searching the room for an emergency exit, and if I can
Yes.
find the punch out slide before he gets going, I will be leaving.
Okay, so I mean, look, we've all thought about whether or not you can make a knife out of poop.
No, we haven't.
Nope,
and
sure haven't.
The obvious question that you'd want to ask, of course, and this is what the researchers in this case asked: can a knife made of human poop be used for animal butchery?
Okay, so there's at least
And
3 things wrong with that premise.
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
Why specifically? Okay, hold on.
James, you gotta pause. You're moving too fast.
no,
many
this
questions.
is the right pace.
All right, so here's the thing. Not only have they decided that they want to make knives out of poop, which premise to begin with, don't understand where they got that from. Okay, but then they decide, okay, from there, can we butcher an animal with this? And now, like,
Yeah.
if you had gone from using animal poop to make a poop knife to butcher animals, I don't know. At least you're all within the animals bit. There's just too many very specific questions here that says to me this something happened. Something happened here.
No, here's the bigger problem with the premise, right? Is because it's like, can I make a poop knife in order to do murder? Like, okay, I don't like you, but sure, you can think that way. They have specifically used the word butchery, which means that they're going to put this absolutely cursed object into something that they then intend to use for food.
Yeah.
I will say, I will say they don't actually. It's not for food. We're not talking about eating poop. We're not talking about eating poop in this.
No,
Right.
but they're
this
gonna
episode.
butcher an animal with it.
Yeah, but for a different purpose.
Okay.
And we'll get to that.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
we'll
but
get
this
to that.
this feels like a pretty classic, like, the law only exists because somebody did that stupid thing once.
Yeah.
That's
It is. Hey, I can't wait to get to the reveal on this one because I think it's gold. It's gold.
I
But
could spend a couple more minutes before we move on to slide 3. Actually, if we just wanted to hang out here
you're not ready for slide.
forever.
I know for a fact you're not ready for slide 3. So here we go. We're gonna move on to our next slide.
Jesus
Titled
Christ.
Procuring raw materials.
Okay, that takes on a sinister meaning here. In most cases,
Yeah, so-
procuring raw materials not a problem. Here, problem.
So let me explain. Let me explain what's going on. I'll explain
So
what we're
upset,
looking
though.
at here.
Yeah, James, tell us what we're looking at.
So from the paper, we have an explanation of what comes next. In order to procure the necessary raw materials for knife production, one of us, meaning the lead researcher and head of the lab that published this study, went on a diet with high protein and fatty acids, which is consistent with an Arctic diet, for 8 days. Raw material collection did not begin until day 4, and then proceeded regularly for the next 5 days. See Table S1. Table S1, just if you want to follow along at home, we are going to give you the link to this paper on the page where you can read the actual PDF, which, by the way, is only 3 pages long. It's such a beautifully concise paper. I really love it. But the supplemental materials are the gold that you really need to follow along. So this is the first table that is in the supplemental materials. And it is a table that says MIE diet. MIE is the lead author on the paper, who we'll talk about later. and it says days and times and the food that he was eating. In order to have a high protein and fatty acid diet, it says, for example, day 1 p.m., ate eggs. 4 p.m., ate beef snack bites. 6 p.m., ate a beef steak. Day 2, had turkey snack bites, beef steak, salmon and beef fillets. Day 3, beef fillet, beef snack bites, salmon, butternut squash risotto, and broccolini. Day 4, 9 a.m., beef salami. Day 4, 1 p.m., there's a new column that says fecal sample collected. So, reading between the lines here, this guy ate nothing but meat for 3 days and didn't collect a sample until day 4. It then goes on to describe everything else he ate for over the course of 8 days. It's all meat. It's chicken thighs. It's meatballs. It's sausage. It's salmon. It's macaroni and cheese. It is fat and protein. A little bit of applesauce.
I will say, after that initial 3 days of nothing but meat, this man becomes pretty regular.
At that point, yeah. Well, the only thing I'm concerned about is that it becomes, I guess it becomes very regular, right? That's 6 p.m. and then 9 a.m. and then 1 p.m. and then 8 a.m. That's pretty good.
This is it. You found it. The worst office environment in existence.
Well, hey, don't worry. Because also from the text of the article, the study was approved by the Institutional Biosafety Committee at Kent State University. Okay. So it's all above board. It's all above board. It's all approved.
Is it, though? So I have a question. And, this is actually something that I have avoided looking up because James and I kind of knew about this one. This was what James pitched to me with. And I was like, yes, we should do that, but I hate you. So I teach SDS sheets, right, to my students. It is a big part of working in any kind of laboratory or shop environment.
For hazardous materials,
yes,
safety data sheets.
Safety data sheet. It tells you everything about the material. It tells you everything from laws for transporting it to what kind of exposures, dangers there are, to what you should do if exposed, to what numbers you should call for the company for poison control, all kinds of different stuff. It details ingestion versus getting it in your eyes. Lots of things. There are SDS sheets for things like human blood. And because this was reviewed by a board, James, I need to know, did somebody have to... So when we bring a new chemical or a new product into my shop, we have to create a new SDS sheet for it to add to the binder. Did somebody have to create an SDS sheet for MIE, those are the initials of this person, I assume's, crap?
I'm sure.
I think that they didn't have to create it because it already exists.
That's worse. That's a worse answer.
Medical research, scatological, zoology research, absolutely. I will say I'm happy for you, Pat, that you have not had to learn that, how to find it for your work.
That's an item that's never going in my binder. I refuse.
Yeah. Yes. So once they've procured the raw materials, you got to make your knife.
God damn it.
God.
The fecal
James.
samples were formed into knives.
James.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What, yes, Pat? Do you have a question?
Each of the pages on here has a title that I assume that you wrote. Did you title each of these pages? Okay.
I did.
So why don't you start
these.
by telling, because we have to describe what this is, why don't you start by telling them what you've titled this one?
The next slide is called Fecal Forging.
Cool. Fuck you.
And James, what's on that? What have you shown us on this page, James?
Yeah, so these are all of the images here are the listener can go find in these supplemental materials again. The article itself has no images, so if you want to see these photos, and again, content warning, it's a lot of poop. It's mostly poop.
It's a really significant amount of poop.
It's a lot of poop. So the text of the article says that fecal samples were formed into knives using ceramic molds, aka knife molds, which they put in quotes, or molded by hand, which they will refer to as hand-shaped knives.
No.
All fecal samples were stored at -20°C until the experiments began.
Again, continuing the history of the worst refrigerator in existence.
Where is the tap out button? How do I get out of this hell that you've put
It's
me in?
a bad.
One of the things that I've learned from this podcast is that you should never open a refrigerator inside of a laboratory.
Never.
It is only going to be filled with spider corpses or
Drowned bees and poop
Ground
knives.
bees and poop knives. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's just a good rule. Never eat anything out of there. That's actually like a rule of
That's
labs.
for
Do
damn
not put
sure.
food in there. Like, both for cross-contamination reasons and also you don't want your food anywhere near any of this stuff, okay? The photos on this slide are figures S1, S2, and S3 from the supplement. The first is showing the clay molds that they made. They actually... this is a lab that also makes prehistoric knives. They recreate prehistoric knives. So there's a stone knife that they use to create a mold for their knife. And then there's a photo of that says that is a cross section of the frozen feces in the fired ceramic mold. And it even so kind of them. On all of these, every time they show fecal matter, they tag it with whose it is.
Yep.
And it is not like anonymized. It's the initials of the person. So later on, when I tell you who did this, I'm going to tell you who did this. The hand-shaped knives are actually were put. The fecal matter was put into a Ziploc bag and then formed into a quote-unquote knife shape with a handle even, and then frozen at really cold temperatures and then stored in dry ice to keep it very, very cold and as hard as possible.
I intimately now understand from these papers why grad student unions are so good. All of my
So
grad
important.
student workers have
So
always been in a
important.
union, and I am pro-union. I'm glad that they're in a union, but our working conditions down in the scene shop have always been pretty good, I think. But now I see what the other departments are doing, and I think that every grad student should have just go work for the scene shop instead. I'll never ask you to make a poop knife.
Yeah. The thing is, I don't know. There are more than two names on this thing, which means that some other people handled other people's poop for sure. It happened. We don't get a lot of details about who did what, but it absolutely happened. But let's keep going along, of course, to the next slide, which I've titled.
You are a monster.
The next title, which I've titled, the next slide, which I've titled "Shit Sharpening," because minutes prior to the experiment, both the knife mold samples and the hand-shaped knives were removed from the laboratory freezer and further sharpened with a metal file. The knives were then buried for several minutes in minus 50 C dry ice to ensure they were sufficiently frozen before any attempt at slicing. So these are as cold as possible and as sharp as they can make them. I honestly don't recommend looking too closely at the close-up images that they have here, because they are a little upsetting, because you are sharpening frozen.
Oh, James, it is not even possible to express just how upset I am.
Yeah.
I need to address the fact, James, that you are a sick individual.
I swear to God, I'm not that comfortable about the poop stuff, but the message at the end of this paper is so good that I had to share this. So I think
you have done this to me. These scientists did this to the world, but you did this to me.
Yeah. Oh, maybe. But it turns out that shit don't cut. Because it turns out that despite being cold...
Hold on. You can't just move. You can't just go to the next slide without warning us. Now you have to explain what this slide is.
I mean, I titled it, "That Shit Don't Cut." They took pig hide. So it's the skin and the fat from a pig, to see if they could cut through the hide. If they can't cut through the hide, they figure that you can't do the butchery. So that was their basic test. Let's go to the toughest part of the animal. Let's see if we can cut through it. And despite being cold from refrigeration, they were not able to use any of the knives that they made from the two procurers of the sample. they were not able to cut into the hide. And instead, the knives immediately melted, even though they were at minus 50 C, and the hide was also kept at very cold temperatures. And the blades immediately melted and left just kind of streaks. And in the photos here, you basically see like a bit of pig hide with streaks of fecal matter on it. And there's no better way to describe that.
I hate.
It just doesn't work. So,
I hate. That's all. I'll just.
See, I'm just, I also hate, and I'm getting angry. I'm getting angry
Oh,
because
no.
my thought here is like, we know, from a scientific standpoint, we know how sharpness and hardness
yeah.
and scratching, we know how these things work. So we know that this is not going to work before the shit ever had to be collected, frozen, formed into knives, and then smeared on pig hide. We knew this would not work.
Yeah. And you know what's even better? Later on in the paper, they note that other researchers have already shown that ice, a knife made of ice, is also useless. So there was even evidence that this wouldn't work, that somebody else had already done.
Without the feces.
Without feces. That's right. So now the question is, why? Why would you
Now
do
the
any of
question's
this?
why.
Yeah, no, well, you asked that as if like, oh, this is a surprise question. No, I've been asking that from the very beginning here.
Hey, I know. And hey, I learned about this because I saw the words poop knife on Twitter.
And you were like, I gotta get into that.
And then I went and read the paper and I was like, this is great. And now I get to tell you why. I get to tell you why. Okay?
Oh, joy.
So, for some context, the people who did this study are from the Kent State University Experimental Archaeology Lab. Their names are Metin Aaron and Michelle Beber. They are both professors at Kent State University, and since 2016, they've had this lab where their whole mission is to reverse engineer Paleolithic tools. So what they do is they find, for example, Metin Aaron is one of the only people in the world who, or one of the, at least, the very least, the experts in the world at making arrowheads from many different eras. And what they are seeking to do is to essentially experimentally show how tool development and technology evolved over time, to understand how human development has happened over time.
I mean, that's interesting. That's a cool thing.
Yeah.
Why didn't he stick to that?
Here's the thing. It's because of another guy who's who basically
The villain of our piece.
the villain of our piece is a guy that we can all come to, at the very least, disrespect. I don't know if we can hate him. I don't know enough about him.
I'm ready to disrespect.
The guy that we're talking about is named Wade Davis. Wade Davis is a professor of anthropology and ethnobotany at a university in Canada. He's a world traveler, and he would call himself an explorer. He's been all over the world, and he's written a whole bunch of books since the 80s about indigenous and Paleolithic cultures that have all sorts of names that kind of just tell you kind of what kind of guy he is, and what kind of books these are. They're all very much pop anthropology. I'm going to read a few of them from his Wikipedia because I was going through these. He wrote a book called The Serpent and the Rainbow, which in the 1980s it was about Haitian zombies, and that has been very controversial and has been challenged about whether or not it was all just kind of pseudoscientific bullshit. There's another called The Passage of Darkness, Ethnobiology and the Haitian Zombie. The Art of Shamanic Healing, Shadows in the Sun, Light at the Edge of the World, The Wayfinders, Into the Silence, and all of these with colons and a subtitle after them. He is a white Canadian who looks a little bit like he looks like one of the new atheists, if you know what I mean.
It's Gilderoy Lockhart, the
Yeah,
anthropologist.
he's got like the messed up thinning hair and a pale, like a tan suit. He wrote a book called Shadows in the Sun, Shadows in the Sun. Subtitle: Travels to Landscapes of Spirit and
Oh my
Desire.
god.
Uh, which is a book of essays and accounts of his of stories that people told him and stories of his own trips to go meet with indigenous people, including in the Arctic. And one of the times he was in the Arctic, he was told a story that goes like this. Um, there is a well-known account of an old Inuit man who refused to move to a settlement. Over the objections of his family, he made plans to stay on the ice. To stop him, they took away all of his tools. So in the midst of a winter gale, he stepped out of their igloo, defecated, and honed the feces into a frozen blade, which he sharpened with a spray of saliva. With the knife, he killed a dog, using the dog's rib cage as a sled, and its hide to harness another dog. He disappeared into the darkness. And Wade Davis presents this as fact, as something that he was told and that he believes to be true.
Of a thing that actually he believes this to be a historic event of a thing that actually happened.
The way he tells it, it was like somebody he was talking to, his grandfather did this, and he presents it as true, and it has been spread through the internet in articles and documentaries and films, and has been presented as true, as an example of like the resiliency and the creativity of indigenous people. Now knowing what we know now about the qualities of a poop knife, do you think this could have happened?
Well, it's possible they didn't spray the poop knives with saliva.
Hey, that's a great point. They did, however, put it in dry ice. They put it in dry ice, which is significantly colder than the temperature outside of the igloo, probably. So,
It wasn't covered in human saliva.
Run it back. Run it again.
Run it all back. We need to get permission now to put a whole bunch of saliva in a spray bottle, because it does say spray. So another follow-up paper will be even worse.
The last thing this laboratory needs is more bodily excretions flying around.
So essentially, like, why do you think it'd be a problem for Wade Davis, this pop anthropology guy, to be telling a story like this in a book and saying in interviews that it's true? Anthropology is science-based. Like, you need to establish facts, and because we have very few. We have very few facts about the way that people lived 12,000 years ago. The best we can do is piece together many little small truths, some things that we can say are definitely true, and then try to piece together a story.
Right.
Because it's prehistory, it's pre-written language. Most of the evidence that people existed is buried or gone. And so you need to have a really firm basis in what you claim is true and what is the standard of evidence. And the last paragraph of this paper says it better than I ever could. So I am going to just read this straight out. Societal narratives and policies are often constructed from anthropological and scientific claims. While the narrative that indigenous and prehistoric people are technologically resourceful and innovative is widely supported, these narratives suffer when an untested claim is used to support it. If one untested claim is used to support a stance, even if that stance is otherwise supported, ethical, or just, then there is no logical reason why a second untested claim cannot then be invoked. The use of an untested claims then becomes the norm, and can be used to support stances that are beneficial to society as well as those that are harmful. Anthropologists must actively seek out unsupported claims, assumptions, rumors, and urban legends, and by testing them, ensure any narratives that follow are as sturdy as possible. And this could be a mission statement for their entire careers.
I'm amazed that this isn't a version of a mission statement that like this sounds like something that like Mythbusters could have used as like the reason that their show is actually nearly a public good, you know.
Exactly. You know, like, oh, you might say, like, what's the harm of the rocket car story where the guy, like, put a jet engine on top of his car and, like, blew himself into a cliff? You know, where's the harm in saying that? But, like, Mythbusters will still test it.
I 100% agree with this statement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm there with you all the way. Except I still think they could have proven this man wrong without collecting the fecal matter of these two scientists, without forming poop knives. I think we know enough about hardness, sharpness, and brittleness to be able to prove this man wrong without making literal actual poop knives.
Yeah, but we can know something but not necessarily have a published and certified paper on it. And you gotta be able to cite the thing.
You gotta cite it.
I agree with you, but I know how scientist bureaucracy works. These guys are freaks.
Look, you can have all the papers you want talking about how, you know, the fat content in, in human feces is too hard to make an edge. You know, is too high to make an edge or something like that. And you can say that. But sometimes if there's this is a book.
Until you make the mold, you don't get to have peer review.
This is a fight against pop archaeology. And which, you know, this guy's a professor. This guy is an actual academic, and he has expertise in certain areas. Like, he's an ethnobotanist. If he wants to talk about how people use different plants for different things, you know, this guy is probably an expert. But when people make claims and put it into a book for a general audience, this then becomes a story that gets out into the world.
I'll be honest, James, I didn't see revenge against, like, petty nonsense being an angle that Poop Knife Story went to.
Yeah.
I didn't know this part of it. Like...
Neither did I, but at the same time, I will also say, I bet way, way, way more people have read Wade Davis's book and story than have read about these scientists making poop knives.
More people read about the poop knives than the article about the molecular structure of poop and how it's not good for making knives.
I guess.
Because this from 2019. I heard about it well after that. It was making the rounds on the internet for a long time because it's a ridiculous story about somebody who made a knife out of poop.
Yep.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's about marketing.
Okay. I think we're there. So we've got two scales. Can you remind me? I've actually forgotten. What did we call our two scales?
Our two scales are ridiculousness, and the other scale is research. So how,
like impact to our daily lives, right?
Okay, impact
Yeah.
versus. Oh, right. It's the scientist or freak scale versus the ridiculous scale.
Right.
Okay. Edie Bud, you're gonna have a hard time convincing me on the freak scale that this one's not a 5.
Oh nope! You don't have to convince. I wouldn't try to convince
I'm
you.
just saying,
These are freaks.
This is the 5. This is the 5.
Sometimes we have to bandy back and forth on what we give a 5 to.
Nope.
But you're okay.
Not this one.
Absolute
freaks. Listen, I was ready to go to the line with you on this one. This
Nope.
one's a 5.
Yeah, 5. 100%.
Can I just remind
Please,
you real quick?
Please don't.
This one of them had a handle.
They made a handle on a poop knife. They didn't have to do that. You know what they did though? They also made that handle out of poop. They didn't need to do that either.
Yeah. At least they did it in a Ziploc bag, I guess.
It's for those of you that are wisely never going to look at these photos. It's like a poop trowel. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Hey, it's a 5. This one's a 5.
Yeah,
I
so
agree.
on the ridiculous scale, this one is a 5.
Freaks.
Relevance of the research, impact on our lives.
Could I say I think this is a 4?
You can't.
You are incorrect.
Actually, you can't
No.
say no.
No. I'm gonna make my case because you know what? There
You
is a
are
whole
so
bunch.
wrong though.
There's a whole bunch of bunk pop anthropology and pop like archaeology. Like we have Ancient Aliens. We have
Yes.
2 seasons of that Netflix, like the Netflix show Ancient Apocalypse. All of that stuff is pseudo archaeology. It's bullshit. It's based on nothing but vibes.
Pseudo-archaeology is worth debunking. Yes.
But you are zooming out too far. We are assessing this paper and this research experiment. And I know you really like that really well-written thesis statement at the end of the paper, which is a really good kind of middle finger to this guy. However, what we are doing here today is not saying, is it worth debunking bunk science and does that have value? Yes, absolutely that has value.
I'm sorry, that is what we're saying. That is exactly what their objective was.
No, their objective was to disprove poop knives.
Poop knives you gotta zoom way in. You're operating on the 1,000-foot level, and this paper is at 100 feet. Like it's at fucking 10 feet. Like,
you know that close up of a poop knife you made me look at? I'm gonna make you look at it again.
Dude, the details of the poop knife are not that important. Okay, I swear to God. Because here you are getting caught up in the ridiculous part. Is this ridiculous? Yes, it is. Is it ridiculous that this guy also presented this ridiculous story, which he thought he has said himself that was probably apocryphal? It was told to him by an Inuit man who was probably fucking pranking him.
Yes. I want to be clear that debunking that story is part of this research paper. I'm not arguing against that. We're not just looking at poop knife, but we're looking at poop knife versus this specific story and debunking this specific story, which is why I will not say that this has a impact value of 0, because this has actual impact. If it wasn't for this thing at the end, I would tell you that this thing has 0 impact. But
instead, I will give it a very solid 1.
Unfucking believable. I fully disagree, and I'm a little upset that you don't see how wrong you are, because
No, James. Here's the thing. I fully see your point, and I fully see the impact and the importance of debunking junk anthropology, junk archaeology. I get that.
But poop knife isn't debunking all junk anthropology.
Debunking one of these is the scope of this paper. It's part, if we want to talk about this type of research and this paper as in the context of the type of work it is, when we talked about the spider robot, if more people did more spider robot research and did little modifications on that still has no value. If more people were doing this type of research, we would be better off as a society. That's my argument.
That's a solid argument, I'm not gonna lie.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just trying to decide if this paper is the whole point of this paper them saying we should look into every single one of these things. Is that what
they are arguing?
That is where they situate this task. Where they situate the experiments that they ran is in the realm of debunking untested claims.
So what you're suggesting is they intentionally did an incredibly ridiculous version of this to gain attention for the idea overall that we should be challenging unsupported anthropology claims.
100%. This is a paper that is more of a loud mission statement. It ends with a mission statement on purpose.
So they intentionally got as freaky as possible.
Yeah.
They intentionally got as freaky as possible so that folks like us would find them and discuss them on a Sunday night.
Yes, 100%.
I say.
You've bumped me to a 2.5.
It has to be a 3. It has to be a 3.
I just don't think it has the sense of scale to be able to get that big.
I will give you 3 partially so that we don't have half numbers because I don't think we should have half numbers in our scale. I'm committing to that.
I fully believe that every scale should include a decimal point.
Okay, cool.
To a tenth of a decimal point. It breaks ties. Otherwise, you can't break ties.
A tenth, okay. I would accept a 3.1.
No, that's too high. You can't have a 3.1.
No. You either get a 2.5 or a 3.
I'll give you a 3.
Yeah.
I
will take a
guess if
3.
I'm not allowed to give a 0.5, then I'll give it a 3.
Great. I'm so happy that we could come to this agreement. You're welcome for expanding your view of the world.
I feel fucking swindled.
And that's how you know it's a good compromise.
Oh
All right,
my
there
god.
we go. Poop knife. Ridiculous value of 5. Research value of 3. Lock it in.
I feel like I just got conned into like liking poop. Like
No, you just like science, baby. You're making too much of the poop, okay? It's not about the poop, okay?
It is though,
But it
bud.
is.
That's
It
what the
very
paper's
much is.
about. There was a chart.
There was a chart. I swear to God, when I was into this paper and I was ready to talk about it, and then I opened up the supplemental diagram and I realized I had photos, and I was like, this is so good, and I am going to absolutely subject my friends to this. This is going to be so good, and it was. I had a great time.